Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's December 8th. Today we celebrate the botanist who discovered photosynthesis, and we'll also learn about the Linnean Society librarian who was a botanist and explorer in his own right. We'll remember the judge who created a new kind of berry, and we'll hear a long-forgotten verse about a rose and a raspberry. We'll grow that garden library with a book about smart gardening in harsh, dry places. And then we'll wrap things up with adorable instructions on how to make a sugar plum tree out of pine cones. It's very, very sweet. But first, here's a quick reminder for you to head on over to the website for the show. You'll find it over at thedailygardener.org. That's thedailygardener.org. And once you're there, you can go through all of the articles that are on the website, all the botanical history and the botanical literature that's been featured in the show. It's all there for you. I think there are about 2,000 posts now, and it's completely free. And when you get to the website, you'll see on the right-hand side a little sign up for you where you can sign up for the free Friday newsletter, which features a personal update from me. You'll get garden-related items and reminders for your calendar. Everything that was mentioned in the Grow That Garden Library segment of the show is listed for the week. So you'll see all of the books for the week listed there. It's just a nice, easy reference. And then in addition to that, I'll share updates from the show, garden-inspired recipes, and gardener gift ideas. So you get all of that from me in the free Friday newsletter. Oh, and I almost forgot. Each week, one lucky subscriber wins a book from the Grow That Garden Library bookshelf. So go ahead, sign up for the newsletter today. In today's curated news, there was a sad post from the National Geographic that caught my attention. It was written by Alejandra Barunda, and the title was called, "Italy's Olive Trees Are Dying. Can They Be Saved?" This is a very concerning article. I had no idea about the state of Italy's olive trees. And don't we all love olive oil from Italy? So head on over to the Facebook group for the show, type in the word olive tree in the search bar, and this post will pop up and you can read all about it. Now, if you'd like to check out any of my curated news articles and original blog posts for yourself, you're in luck, because I do share everything there in the free Facebook group for the show. It's called the Daily Gardener Community. So there's no need to take notes or search for links. The next time you're on Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. Today is the birthday of the Dutch physician, physiologist, and botanist Jan Ingenhousz, who was born on this day, December 8th, in 1730. Jan made one of the most significant botanical discoveries in history, photosynthesis. Jan served as the personal physician to the royal Habsburg family in Austria. In 1771, Jan traveled to England with a group that included Benjamin Franklin. During their trip, the group called on Joseph Priestley, who had just made his own impressive discovery that plant leaves absorb and emit gases. 8 years later, Jan wrapped up his work with the Habsburgs and moved his family to England. In a fascinating turn of events, Jan started testing his ideas about plants in the very same laboratory that Joseph Priestley had used at Bowood House. Jan extended Priestley's work by adding light as a variable to his experiments. When Jan's plants were placed underwater in a clear container, Jan exposed them to darkness and to sunlight. In the dark, only a few bubbles appeared on the plant. A more exaggerated reaction occurred when Jan's plants were in the tank while the sun was shining on them. Lots of little bubbles appeared on the leaves' undersides then. Jan learned that the bubbles made in sunlight contained oxygen, and the bubbles made in darkness contained carbon dioxide. Jan had proved photosynthesis. And today is the birthday of the Scottish botanist, naturalist, and explorer David Donne, who was born on this day, December 8th, in 1800. David grew up in a family with 5 brothers and 1 sister. Poor sister. His father, George Donne, was a nurseryman. The Donnes provided plants to botanists and supplied produce to the people living near their nursery. In 1802, David's father became superintendent of the Edinburgh Botanic Gardens. Both David and his older brother, George Jr., became botanists. As a young man, David moved to London and became a fellow of the Linnean Society. One of David's first jobs was as the botanist Almer Burke Lambert's personal librarian, and Almer had an extraordinary personal library and herbarium. This job helped David become the Linnean Society librarian, a position he held for almost 20 years. At the age of 35, David became the first professor of botany at King's College in London. Shortly after starting his professorship, David discovered a malignant tumor on his neck. He died in 1841, 2 weeks short of his 42nd birthday. And today is the birthday of the California Superior Court Judge and gardener James Harvey Logan, who was born on this day, December 8th, in 1841. An avid gardener, Judge Logan enjoyed trying his hand at hybridizing. In 1881, Logan was working with blackberries. He crossed a local wild blackberry with a cultivated blackberry known as the Augenbaugh. At the same time, Logan had some red Antwerp raspberries growing in his garden. In a completely unexpected development, Logan's work resulted in a cross between his crossed blackberry and the Antwerp raspberry, and the result was the Loganberry. And 2 years later, the Loganberry was introduced to the public by the University of California. Santa Cruz County published a feature on the Loganberry, which said, "The vines or canes of the Loganberry grow entirely unlike either the raspberry or the blackberry. They trail or grow upon the ground, more like the dewberry. They are exceedingly strong growers, each shoot or branch reaching a growth of 8 to 10 feet in one season without irrigation. And the canes or vines are very large, without the thorns of the blackberry bushes, but have very fine, soft spines, much like those of raspberry bushes. And the fruit has the combined flavor of both berries. It's pleasant, mild, vinous, delightful to the taste, and peculiar to this fruit alone. It is excellent for the table, eaten raw or cooked, and for jelly or jam is without equal. The vines are enormous bearers, and the fruit is very firm and carries well." In Unearthed Words, I'm really excited today to share this very fun poem that I discovered. It was hard to find. It's called The Legend of the Loganberry, and it was written by the American scholar, historian, biographer, essayist, translator, anthologist, and versifier Morris Bishop, and he shared this poem in the Saturday Evening Post. Here it is, The Legend of the Loganberry. A rose once bloomed in a garden, white and dainty and fair. By the garden wall at evenfall, it dreamed and nodded there. And a raspberry bush climbed over the wall and hung in a rakish pose. "Haven't we met somewhere, my pet?" the raspberry said to the rose. The pure white rose turned whiter and trembled upon its stalk. One of its petals slowly settled down on the garden walk. "I'm not that kind of rose," she said, "that blossoms in studios. You're wicked, very, you red raspberry." To the raspberry said the rose. Be mine, O maiden rose," the wicked raspberry cried. But the rose was brave and cried, "Behave, begone to your raspberry bride." The rose may only woo the rose, the cherry espouse the cherry. The gypsy maid gets the gypsy blade, the raspberry gets the berry. Rose, you have torn in tatters a raspberry heart today. To make you share my own despair, I'll throw myself away. And maybe you'll be sorry and cease to be so merry when it is said that I have wed a horrid blackberry. And just to pain a sweet little rose, lovers are very queer. He made a match in the blackberry patch and ruined his own career. And from that shameful mating, 'twas only temporary, was born that wild, alluring child, the lovely Logan Berry. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Planting Design for Dry Gardens by Olivier Philippe. This book came out in 2016, and the subtitle is Beautiful Resilient Ground Covers for Terraces, Paved Areas, Gravel, and Other Alternatives to the Lawn. In this book, Olivier brings his 25 years of studying plants in the world's driest places. The author of the Dry Gardening Handbook, Olivier understands how to grow ground covers in the most challenging situations. While green lawns are the goal for most homeowners, they often look scrappy and brown due to one reason or another. Olivier's book offers ground cover designs that are eco-friendly and so gorgeous that they redefine the boundaries between traditional lawn and innovative planting beds. Olivier drew his inspiration from the wild plant communities of Europe, the Middle East, and the United States. By rigorously trialing plant combinations, Olivier discovered plant selections that are vigorous and hardy on terraces, paths, gravel beds, and flower borders, as well as open yard spaces. Olivier's smart plant choices include tough new macrothermal grasses, carpeting ground covers, and stunning wildflower mixes that thrive among gravel and stone. And Olivier thoughtfully includes an indispensable plant directory with over 200 tough and gorgeous dry garden plants that will delight gardeners. This book is 240 pages of lush ground covers to help you create a sustainable and low-maintenance space. You can get a copy of Planting Design for Dry Gardens by Olivier Philippe and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $30. And finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. In 1935, Diana Park's Garden Forum in the Pittsburgh Press shared an adorable suggestion from a young reader about making a sugar plum tree. Here's what she wrote. Have you thought of making a sugar plum tree out of pine cones for Christmas gifts? Perhaps your father could drive you to a place where evergreens grow. Take a basket, and in the woods, you will probably find plenty of cones to fill it. Get all the sizes you can find, large, small, and medium, perfect and broken. The defective ones may be sewed into a bright-colored bag for burning on Christmas Eve. Save all the seed out of the brackets and plant it in a sheltered place out of doors over winter, and perhaps you may grow some trees of your own next year. The sugar plum tree is made as follows. Wash the largest cone you have, drying it well. Paint the tips with chocolate frosting and stick rainbow-colored gumdrops on the chocolate frosting. This makes a very colorful sugar plum tree and will be welcomed by almost anybody as a surprise from a little girl at Christmas time. Then, of course, you can paint cones with gold paint and use them as Christmas tree decorations. Hemlock cones are small and can be gilded or colored. Then glue them on cards, making nice place cards for Christmas parties. That's sweet. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Wyoming, Minnesota with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, Kiana Rayleigh, Maddie Doyle, Natalie Decker, and Eric Begay. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, and listeners always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. All the stories and books that are featured on the show can be found over at thedailygardener.org, thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. Last but not least, you can share your own gardener greetings on the show by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.